Hi. A ketogenic diet is one variant of a low carb diet. Recent studies have found that low carb diets have better diet adherence than low fat diets. When all things are held equal, people find it's easier to restrict carbohydrates than they find it is to restrict fats. So, in the particular case of the ketogenic diet, it takes advantage of a particular evolutionary adaptation called ketosis, which happens anytime there's a restriction of glucose in the bloodstream for a prolonged period of time. Glycogen stores in the muscles and in the liver deplete, and then the body begins to accelerate the breakdown of fat through a process called ketosis, which releases ketones, beta hydroxybutyrate, acetoacetate, and acetone that the body, both in the brain and the muscles and various liver organs and so forth, can utilize for the metabolization that they need to produce their energy. In particular, the brain focuses on the ketones acetoacetate and acetone, and the muscles primarily operate on the beta hydroxybutyrol. Now, insulin impedes the action of lipase, which is an enzyme that breaks down triglycerides or fat into the ketone bodies BHB, acetoacetate, and acetone. And a lot of people have insulin resistance issue, pre-diabetic issues, type 2 diabetes, and so forth that result from having such high levels of insulin that the pancreas goes into overdrive, creating insulin, and you develop an imbalance. So, what low carb diets do is they control this insulin, and when you control the insulin, lipase is able to function on the triglycerides and adipose tissue, allowing you to unlock your fat stores. A process called fat adaptation that takes several weeks, 2 to 4 in thinner individuals, 3 to 8 in heavier set individuals. But this key is in that having access to the energy stored within the fat by suppressing insulin through the restriction of carbohydrates is where the secret of the ketogenic diet works. The calories in, calories out mantra is still true, and I think it's irrelevant because people know that extra exercise and less food will eventually lead to weight loss. But the question is not how to do that. The question is how to do that and still keep your energy up and not to have mood swings and to be comfortable during the process so you can maintain it for a long period of time. And the secret to that is through hormonal regulation, specifically of the hormone insulin. And how to control insulin production is to control carbohydrate intake. So, by controlling carbohydrate intake first, it regulates the processing of insulin, which allows the function of lipase, which unlocks all of the fat stores that you have on your body, which answers the question, why are fat people still hungry? It unlocks the fat stores that you have, giving you virtually unlimited and fairly consistent energy throughout the day. At which point, the regulation of carbohydrates and the maintenance of this ketogenic process become what's important to diet adherence. Because through maintaining ketosis and by metabolizing these fats, you have consistent energy and you suppress the hunger that leads to overeating. You get control of your appetite and you're able to go into a calorie deficit without calorie restriction. Studies have found that people that follow ketogenic diets and only count their carbohydrates have insignificantly different results than those people that count carbohydrates and calories, which means that once you start controlling the carbs, your appetite regulation and your hunger functions come back under control. You're able to eat an appropriate amount of food without feeling hungry or without feeling tired. It avoids the metabolic damage of reducing your basal metabolic rate and having slowdowns, being tired and lethargic, as is frequently a side effect of low carbohydrate diets, low fat diets. So a low carbohydrate diet enables you to keep your metabolic rate up, maintain your energy, and suppress the appetite through the regulation of insulin that allows you, for the very first time in your life, to have control over your hunger and to go into a calorie deficit willingly without restriction and comfortably while your energy remains high. And that's the secret of the ketogenic diet. What's important to remember about the ketogenic diet is a ketogenic diet is not food specific. Anytime you've controlled the glycogen and you've controlled the glucose in the bloodstream by restricting carbohydrates, you've entered ketosis. And any combination of foods that enter you into a state of ketosis regularly are part of a ketogenic diet. So specific food restrictions are not necessarily important to this diet. Macronutrient restrictions for carbohydrates are. So one of the things that people talk about is strict keto or various forms of keto. So one of the things that you want to consider is whether or not you want to take on those additional restrictions. Things like no grain, things like no dairy. And I'm not going to weigh in on whether or not those things specifically help your weight loss or not. There are many reasons to be on a ketogenic diet. Some people find it helps with their epilepsy. Some people do it because it can starve certain types of cancerous tumors. Some people do it most commonly for weight loss. So depending on your reason for being on keto, whether or not you should restrict dairy, your specific genetics, your specific gut microbiome, all of those things come into that question. But things like grass-fed versus regular mainstream beef aren't important for ketosis. Things like no grains, no dairy, they're not important for ketosis. They may aid your weight loss. They may be fantastic recommendations for your overall health. But ketosis is related to the depletion of glucose and glycogen and is achieved through the restriction of carbohydrates. You typically want to get adequate protein, which for women will tend to start somewhere around 50 to 60 grams and will scale all the way up to 100 or 120 grams. And for men, will typically start around 80 grams and will scale all the way up to like 140 grams or more if you're a very intense athlete. And that's adequate protein. Carbohydrates, typically you want to restrict under 20 grams. Some people are tolerant all the way up to 50 grams, but 20 grams is a good introductory number to see where your actual tolerance is. So once you have your adequate protein, you have your carbohydrate restriction, you enter ketosis, and you begin to develop ketones in the bloodstream, which fuel your brain and your body, and you have metabolic adaptations that allow your brain to take advantage of the ketones and allow your muscles to take advantage of the ketone bodies. And that's a process called fat adaptation, which takes 2 to 4 weeks in thinner people and 3 to 8 weeks in heavier set people. So you want to be patient with this diet because it is a wide sweeping, body-wide change of fuel sources and metabolic processes required to fuel basic everyday necessities. And as you go forward to learn about your ketogenic diet, it's important to note that hydration and electrolyte maintenance are going to be important for your success, as well as maintaining the proper amount of fiber and leafy green and green vegetable intake. Although they're high in carbohydrates, they're essential for your health. They contain many of the vitamins and minerals that you need to stay alive and are an important source of fiber. I wish you guys all the best of luck. Much love. Bye from Keto Dick.